Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. Taking a quick look here at Bitcoin and of course the crypto market update here. Basically looking at seasonality here, essentially the year over year for Bitcoin, understanding how well these coins are performing versus each other and or Bitcoin. And also talking a little bit more about the macro perspective here, just kind of giving you some larger time frame potential divergences, more food for thought there. And we're also going to look at a power of 3 trade setup here for Bitcoin, and we're more likely than not going to go higher because of that, and of course round out the analysis here with some CME gaps on some of these select coins here that have that feature. So we're going to take a look at all that and much more. So thanks again for being an amazing part of my life. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance. Really helps grow the channel. We're starting to get more views, but not as many likes as we'd appreciate. I know the comments are usually pretty awesome, so keep them coming. Appreciate you folks. Thanks again so much. Let's take a look here at the crypto market overview to start. First and foremost, Fear and Greed Index at 58, kind of increasing. Same thing with Altcoin Season Index. These two numbers are effectively maintaining good ranges, but also increasing. That's generally favorable. I know I mentioned that Fear and Greed Index when it was pulling back here is favorable too. The overall sense is that as long as we don't get too greedy and we go range bound with Bitcoin, the likelihood of altcoins taking off is quite high. In other words, we've seen very good correlations between those two. We take a look here at Altcoin Season Index, though, once more, still looking very significant in the sense that altcoin and basically the market cap is at 1.61. Anything over 1.5 is usually a very good sign. And we've been maintaining really close to this area here. So essentially, the best way to describe it is that there's a lot of altcoins that are heating up. Money's flowing away from stablecoin, going into Bitcoin, or sorry, away from Bitcoin. Was once in stablecoin here earlier this week, and now it's flowing into altcoins. So there's a very, very good signs here. So ultimately, the market overview is very positive. Let's take a quick look here at open interest too. We can see open interest is still over that 3.5 billion threshold. So that's a good sign too. So ultimately, all in all, things are looking quite favorable. So let's go ahead and start off with our year over year. Just kind of give you some perspective on trends here. This is a good way to kind of identify, where we're at for the month of August and or September. And statistically, August and September are the two least favorable months. Like they average out to be the lowest amount of gains on average. So generally speaking, not the greatest 2 months. It's usually the third quarter for the year is the lowest return on average for Bitcoin and ETH as well. But October, November, December are always statistically very, very positive. So it's actually okay that we're in this position right now where the price action is kind of going sideways for Bitcoin. We want that to happen because if it continues to do what we're doing, what we see here, then next month we'll probably see a little bit of a capitulation and then a takeoff and a leg up from there. And optimally at that point, Bitcoin dominance will be pulling back. So overall, that's a very positive sign here too. Now, when we look at positivity, there's some pretty significant outliers. We're going to talk about XRP, Solana, SUI, and a handful of other scenarios here, but the key takeaway here is that Ethereum and XRP are performing very well. SUI is now starting to leg up into its key level resistance, so just be mindful. We got some resistance coming up there, but all in all, pretty solid. Just another quick perspective here. I touched on this yesterday. I'd like to just kind of reaffirm and reiterate. We do have a bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. There's a larger time frame, takes a while to play out, but generally speaking, we're starting to see when you have higher highs on the price action and lower highs in the RSI, that's generally construed as a bearish divergence. I'm not super convinced that this is going to play out because previously here we did see a pretty significant correction after we had our third retest. We had our third retest here locally, so hypothetically, if history repeats itself, we'll see a downtrend moving forward. I don't really feel like that's going to happen though. That's just me personally, but I think this is a little bit different of a market right now. So just know that exists. So profit taking isn't the worst consideration for Bitcoin itself, but once more, I'm still a little bit more leaning towards Bitcoin kind of running stagnant this month and next. And then, of course, we should probably do see a nice quarterly increase in October, November, December. Touching on the Power 3 here trade setup, just to give you some perspective. If you're not familiar, my Discord does have all this information in it. So if you go to our education section, kind of explains how these work. These aren't like 100% guaranteed, but they do effectively work very well. And what it does is it's a situation where the whales will work you into a kind of a consolidation or accumulation phase, right? This is where we had a bullish rectangle. Since that bullish rectangle didn't play out, we're seeing or saw recently this last week a manipulation phase, which effectively just tells us, hey, the price action is pulling back. A lot of folks are trapped in late shorts here right now, and then the price is slowly starting to come up. So the concept here is to basically trap late shorts and to blast straight through that resistance here after hitting the local high or breaking through the local high. So that's kind of a concept here. Once more, it's all theory until it actually happens. Let's take a quick look at CME gaps. And just recognize, CME futures is closed, and it closes from Friday afternoon, opens up roughly on Sunday, and I think it's Sunday afternoon if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check the hours again. I don't remember off the top of my head. Haven't traded day trade in a long time. But the concept here is CME gaps. When they close on Friday and they reopen on Sunday, there's a gap that's created. And right now, where we can see 117,400 is that closure for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin price action right now is at about 116.7. So we got a slight gap of roughly $700-800, depending on how you average that out. And the concept is that, if we're still in the 116,000 range tomorrow, then the likelihood of the price going out to fill that gap is higher. Same thing here as well with CME gaps for Ethereum. We're at 4,087 for the closure on Friday, and at this point, roughly the price action's at 4,200 for Ethereum, and then Solana is close to its closure on Friday at 180. So just know that those things are there, and that's a thing. All right, so let's take a quick look here at Bitcoin, see kind of what's going on. This is just a previous larger time frame head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern with a pennant as well. So we are in the midst of a pennant pattern. It really depends on how you draw it out, but for the most part, this is still something that should play out pretty well. It looks a little bit more like a bullish type of flag pattern to me. So, ultimately, really depends on how you look at it. The key takeaway here is you don't trade based on patterns, but if this pattern is consistent with a bullish type of convergence, then it may be worthwhile taking a trade, right? That's the concept. That's why we take the trades that we do. And a future reference, quick congrats to our committee members for some nice profits here. We took Dogecoin 76%, 59% on ETH, and Crow 45%. Those are trades taken the last week. There's a couple of others we also triggered as well, but those were trades taken about 5 days ago. Okay, so what I want to look at here, now that we understand a bit more where we're at, let's talk about Bitcoin dominance and then just kind of work our way down into each one of the charts. So to clarify, I kind of got this support and resistance range essentially for Bitcoin dominance. I feel like if we lose 60%, which we are doing right now, this is a very positive sign. You got to recognize when Bitcoin dominance pulls back, altcoins generally move up, right? That's the concept. In other words, money's coming away from Bitcoin, going somewhere. It either goes into stable coins, which we see here is kind of pulling back. So obviously over the last, 5 or 6, 7 trading days, stablecoin dominance is decreasing and essentially allowing altcoins to go up. That's essentially the concept. So that all kind of works out together. If you're not familiar, jump on over to our Discord once more just to give you some perspective. We have it's in our education section. I believe I have it pinned. It's just a quick little cheat sheet here kind of telling you how Bitcoin dominance correlates to the price action. So anyways, that's all there and relevant, but also not super, super important at this point. It is just telling us, hey, that money's flowing away from stable coins, going into altcoins, and until it discontinues, we're probably going to see altcoins pumping here, so to speak, for lack of better terms. So let's take a look at the daily time frame for Bitcoin, see if we can extract any information. We're kind of hanging out here at the 20-day SMA, right there where the descending trend line is at, and we're averaging between our 0.382 and our 0.5 fib level. It's pretty common for coins to retrace to their halfway point and to initially reject and or just retest it as a bullish type of support. In this case, we haven't broken through yet, so hypothetically we do break through, it would make sense for us to go up to about 120, pull back to 118 and take off from there based on the point of control being broken and retesting a previous support, or previous resistance rather, as a support. Those are things we like to look for. So the daily time frame essentially looks good even though we are testing that resistance. We're right here above 50 on the RSI. We're above our moving average. Money flowing index increasing, MACDs converging. There's a good handful of reasons why we're in good shape there. And the same thing here as well too. You can kind of see this type of pennant pattern here forming for us. That's also a good type of bullish pattern. And the reason why it's bullish is because the bears are slowly losing control as the price action continues to progress in this range. We're also averaging ourselves out above all moving averages, so that's quite favorable too. So it makes a lot more sense for the price to go higher. So if you're in a Bitcoin long with us, we took a Bitcoin long last weekend, if I recall correctly, at 113,000. You may want to keep it open because the likelihood of further upside seems greater now at this point. Let's double check the backend data, make sure we are in good shape though too. So we don't just want to arbitrarily jump into a long or a short position without understanding, the manipulative patterns in the back end, right? So we take a look here. We can see the average top trader is long. We've seen this for roughly the last 3 trading days in a row. We also have more bids than asks, so many people are trying to buy more than they're trying to sell. Those are ultimately very, very good signs. When we look here as well, we can see open interest, or correction, open interest rather, 116,000. We're starting to build a base there, but 118 and 120 are above us. So those are the 2 resistances. So the simple way to understand it is every 2,000, we have support or resistance. So as we continue to accumulate in this range, 116 is becoming a heavy area of open interest. That's reinforcing more support below us. And just note that 118 to 120 is that upper range there that could essentially get hit next, which I think is a distinct probability, especially with 8 billion in liquidation long delta. Now this pales in comparison to Ethereum's liquidation delta, which is interesting. We're about half that size. And I forgot to mention this too. When we take a look at, the overview, I forgot to touch on this here, but we've got ETF net inflow is high, right? And Ethereum is essentially 50, maybe even more and larger. We're seeing more inflow into Ethereum than we are Bitcoin, okay? Now keep in mind that was the 7th, today's the 9th, so there's a bit of a lag there, but the general concept here remains the same. We see a lot of money flowing into Ethereum, and that's why Bitcoin's kind of going sideways. And it's good though, folks, we want that to happen because when Ethereum front runs Bitcoin, generally money goes into altcoins, and we continue to see altcoin season effectively happen. While I still think we're going to see a diminished return on altcoins, we're still in a good position here where it's a good chance that we go further up. The last thing I want to touch on here is just liquidation here for Bitcoin. Super heavy concentration between 118 and 119. So it seems very sensible we're going to get a leg up to 119 here soon. That's just kind of my speculation for Bitcoin. All right, so let's move on to Ethereum. What's going on with Ethereum? Well, let's look at the backend data first, kind of get our baseline there, and then we'll take a look at the charts and kind of see how awesome this coin is performing. And once more, it's nice to be in a long. I think we took our long at 36.90, if I recall correctly, and we finished our last take profit at 4,200. So good news is we've been skyrocketing. Things are doing great, but how much higher is it going to go? That's the question. We'll look at fib levels here soon with the extensions and kind of see. I'm thinking 4,300 is at 1.618 fib level. That should be the highest point. But fib levels are fib levels, folks. They're subject to change and not always exact. So make sure you understand that. Try to be careful trusting people that only use fib levels when they trade. Furthermore, we can see a ton of liquidation down below the price action, that's open interest rather. This doesn't tell us too much because it's all below the price. It just reinforces the fact that 3,900 to 4,000, that's that local area of open interest. That's probably going to be the next support if the price pulls back. But look at this here. Liquidation long delta, 25 billion. Bitcoin's at 8 billion right now. That's quite the contrast. That's literally 3 times as much volume flowing into Ethereum than we see Bitcoin. It's a very good sign. Liquidation does tell us that we got shorts upwards about 4,400. And if you're the kind of person that keeps shorting Ethereum, keeps getting stopped out, you're part of the problem. I don't know if you know this, but the more people short this coin, the more likely it is to go higher because market manipulation is a son of a gun, and they keep pushing the price action higher because every time people close other positions, it opens up more buy opportunities and the price keeps going up. Okay, so it's a crazy cool situation when you're taking longs, and not so much when you're taking shorts. So the key takeaway here is that Ethereum is strong. I would not recommend shorting against it, even though it's massively overextended, right? It's been moving in the same direction for like 72 hours without correction. It's a lot. Okay, so look at the daily time frame. Let's double check here. Speaking of overextension, we are not that bad, honestly, at this point. We're just getting started. So the daily time frame, barely over 70 on the RSI. Moving average is pulling back. We can see MACD is converging here. These are all signs to not take a short position. Okay, pretty much everything's screaming, do not short this coin. Take a look here. We can see 1.618. There's that golden pocket. Sorry, correction, it's a 0.618 fib level, roughly the same. We have an overextension here, essentially, based on the previous retracement, and 1.618 is a common area to start slowing down. So I would say 4,300 would be a sensible place to either A, consider a short if you're a risky trader, or B, just secure some profits in that range. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at there on ETH. Pretty awesome stuff. There's not much else to really note. The 4-hour time frame is going to be mega bullish, so we're in good shape there. I would just say the bumper sticker here is don't short this coin. I don't care if it drops to about 3,800 tomorrow. It's still a bad play to take a short position with the coin with that much liquidation and just that much momentum. Just makes no sense. Taking a look at Solana. Speaking of momentum, It's doing well. I'm not super enthused about Solana though. I mean, I mentioned this yesterday too. It's just kind of slowly limping in, and it just feels like as soon as we have a correction, we may pull back. But I hope I'm wrong here. And let's just double check. First of all, we got open interest above the price at 184, at 183. It's somewhat of a resistance for us. We've got 168 as that support there. So we're kind of in that range until we break above 184. We can just say round number 185. And then I think it's best to presume that's going to be a resistance for us. We do have liquidation long delta at about 2.5 billion. While that's good, that's not a lot for this coin. So it's kind of a false positive there in my opinion. And we've got just a tiny bit more left liquidation above the price. So honestly, I don't think we're going to see a monumental run from this coin, but once more, I could be wrong. We have our previous high here, our macro high at 183, 184. So we are right in that range of resistance. So a closure above that level could imply further upside, but I think it's probably best to consider waiting on this coin here. It doesn't seem like this is not an optimal trade setup. But let's double check. So daily time frame is breaking somewhat bullish. We're remaining above 50 in the RSI. Over our moving average, stochastic and MACD are starting to converge, so those are very positive. And the 4-hour time frame is also pretty good too. There's no doubt about it. The technical analysis looks pretty solid in this coin. It's just the back-end data isn't super favorable for me. Not enough for me to warrant a long or a short position. Okay, so just be mindful, overextension leading into a resistance. Oftentimes the price can slow down and or it needs a lot of volume to flow through or to break through that resistance. And it's not common to see high volume on weekends. So just be mindful of that. All right, that's kind of where we're at there on Solana. Take a look here at SUI. Roughly the same thing, only a lot more volume. And if I'm not mistaken, the back-end data looks a bit better. At least it did from yesterday. Now, I'm not proposing you take a long into resistance. We got what? Look at this open interest. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heavy concentrations of open interest between $4 and $4.30. So if we make it to the $4 range, there's quite possibly going to be a short squeeze. We got a lot of liquidation to the upside. But on the same accord, it doesn't seem accurate to me. So once more, the reason why I say that is just because open interest is a very it's underused, or just I guess maybe people don't use it as often as they should. While there's a lot of liquidation above the price between 4 and 420, that amount of open interest leads me to believe we have a lot of resistance and we're going to have exit liquidity because a lot of people are upside down in their $4 positions. They just want to get out. So there's a chance that we do see the price pull back at 4. Just remember $4 is a heavy resistance. If we can maintain and close above $4 here in the next 24 to 48 hours, then I would say that we're probably in better shape to see further upside. But once more, we have confluence at that range. We got our 0.68, 0.65 golden pocket range. And once more, this is confluence, right? We've got this plus a lot of liquidation above the price and open interest right here. So this isn't just a magical fib level. That's a key level resistance, mainly because it's a psychological support and resistance from the past, but also here in this retracement, we could see the price action reject out there on the 0.68 fib level. So that's kind of where we're at there. Pretty much all the coins we're looking at here today, they're going to have bullish convergences, and a lot of the technical analysis going to look pretty good. So for the most part, this coin still looks pretty strong. I wouldn't recommend shorting it, even though we're coming into resistance. If you insist on shorting at $4, just make sure you have a tight stop loss. Don't get too greedy, because this coin can run, okay? All right, moving on, and last but not least here, let's take a look at XRP's backend data first. And this is a coin that we took significant profits on as well. We took along at 298, didn't average in at 289. We barely missed that entry, but the price took off. So in other words, 293 to $3 was that heavy concentration of open interest below the price, reinforcing support. Moving forward, 342, 343, if you remember that number, that's a heavy area of open interest as well, because as you can see, a lot of people are upside down on their positions right now, okay? So as we travel into that range, we're going to be seeing some selling pressure. And once more, we look at liquidation long delta, it's at 1 billion, still pretty small for this coin. And if we look at liquidation, kind of zooming in here the last 7 days, there's a decent chunk between 335 and 345, but all in all, that's nothing to write home about. In other words, we could very well see a push up to that 343 resistance, but my speculation is if 343 occurs, that would be a good consideration for a short, just based on just based on the simple fact that we have a lot of resistance there. But once more, this coin can be very volatile too, so be mindful of that. Having said that, daily time frame does have a fair value gap as low as $3, so the price does pull back. We could very well see that. From a macro perspective, though, we're all still good here. A lot of bullish convergences. 4-hour time frame reflects the same behavior. The difference is we are starting to see a nice little pennant pattern here, and these usually break to the upside. So I would not be surprised if we see one more leg up from this coin at 343 and then back down. So I'm going to go ahead and set an alert at 342.5. and see if that alert triggers, reevaluate, see if it may be worth taking a short position. Again, I'm not proposing you short this coin. If you do, I would consider waiting. But between now and then, we either have a bullish type of progression here to push a little bit higher to sweep those shorts or those liquidation levels above the price, or to effectively short at a higher rate there. But I wouldn't recommend a long at this point. That's just me personally. I don't love taking longs in these ranges. But the key takeaway I would say is important to recognize the local high has been broken and it's being established as a new low. So you're statistically much more favorable to take a long than you are a short position at this level, just based on the simple fact that we have a lot more contributing factors. But once more, folks, it's a weekend. You shouldn't even be trading on weekends, honestly. That's just my thought personally, but that's just me and how I do things. I don't trade on weekends too often. I'm considering a long position here with some of these coins that we just discussed, but I'll send that update to our team here soon with our playout charts, etc. But that'll all be available in our trade alerts section. Future reference, if you're in our Discord, make sure you read through our trade alerts. Every single one of our profitable trades here recently has been highlighted here initially, right? Crow, XRP, Dogecoin, Litecoin. We've taken some significant profits here recently, and those are all good little heads up, kind of letting you know why I take the trades. So tune into that. It's all linked down below. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks again so much for joining me here. Very last thing too, be sure to check out BitUnix. I get a question a lot. How does this work? What's a good exchange? No KYC or VPN. These guys are awesome. Be sure to use them. I'm also going to be partnering with some new exchanges here soon just to get you some other options available too as well, so we can maybe stagger our benefit rewards here. But for right now, nice deposit reward for these guys. Be sure to check them out. Don't sleep on that. All right, have a good one. We'll see you the next one. Take care of yourself out there. Bye-bye.